The media here. And are they planning a manufactured grid collapse? Well, there's a lot happening around the world right now regarding grids failing, which seems to really point to the normalization of this. I'm not saying this is going to happen this year, but there seems to be a lot pointing towards them, at least obviously, as I've reported many times before, laying out a full agenda for controlling people, utilizing this as an excuse. Cuba's fifth grid collapse this year is a dire warning for America's own fragile power infrastructure. At the same time, we see a lot of mainstream stories pushing this idea that Canada is set to feel the most extreme cold on Earth this year. This is a huge struggle for the grid, as is summertime. We can't really escape it. At the end of the day, the grid in both Canada, the United States, and most major Western countries in the world is extremely outdated, and that's by design because they want a major emergency in order to come in with solutions. We've reported on the Emergency Planning Act, sections 18 and 18.1 before out of Canada, which goes into how they can basically control every aspect of your life utilizing this as an excuse. And they are bringing in the technocratic grid big time in Canada as well as the US, both Canada and the US putting up facial recognition cameras everywhere, including on highways and busy roads. It's happening under the Trump administration, and it's happening under the Liberal Mark Carney administration in Canada, as Edmonton becomes first in Canada to test facial recognition body cameras as well in police pilot program. A lot's happening. Censorship plays into this. COP 30 just happened. We're going to go into what all this means and how we could be seeing the unrolling of something that we see in China happening both in the United States and Canada, and yes, even Mexico. But before we get into it, I urge people to check those links below and escape the digital system to come as they're rolling out digital IDs and CBDCs, as banks are failing, as we're seeing them go bankrupt, as we see inflation skyrocket. This is so important that people protect themselves. I urge people to check the link in the description, firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/. It has to be that exact link, not a shortened version, not a lengthened version. It's in the description, my friends. There you could buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium, hold it in your hands, put it in a vault, or put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system, and schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzalez today. You'll also get a complimentary investors package, which with that, just let them know that you found them at World Alternative Media, or WAM, WAM, if you have not yet already. And of course, we have many videos with Mark up on our channel, including our latest on the gold and silver spike, which is absolutely incredible. Also, make sure to check that link in the description for anarchapulco.com, where you can get tickets to Anarchapulco 2026, February 15th to 20th in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, where I live. You'll see me speak. You'll see many other people, amazing names speak. Use code WAM, WAM, and you'll get 10% off on your tickets. I mean, Jeff Berwick will be there, Gareth Ike, Curtis Stone, Charlie Robinson, Greg Reese, Max Egan, Dr. Andrew Kaufman. The list goes on and on and on, and I highly recommend people go and check that out in the description of the video today. Again, that's code WAM, and I hope to see you there. Anyway, let's get into this. So, SHTF Plan reports Cuba's fifth grid collapse this year is a dire warning for America's own fragile power infrastructure. I remember saying 15 years ago, look, the grid is, back in the 1950s still. Well, now we have a 70-year outdated grid. Cuba's power grid, on top of that, is not that far off. Remember, they stopped building their infrastructure up back around the 40s and 50s. Cuba's power grid collapsed again, causing widespread blackouts. The crisis stems from fuel shortages and an outdated centralized system. Daily life is severely disrupted, with residents struggling for basic necessities. The U.S. grid faces similar vulnerabilities from aging infrastructure and foreign dependencies. America must act now to harden its grid and prevent comparable catastrophe. That's the thing, though. They don't want to do that. In fact, they want the grid to collapse. By they, I mean they, them, those who should not be, that are in power, that are pushing the WEF agenda, the World Economic Forum agenda, as far as pushing government-run grocery stores in New York City and Chicago, and pushing insane carbon taxes throughout the country, and UBI, Universal Basic Income, which for some reason, both the left and the right's pushing. Elon Musk is a big supporter of that. You will own nothing and you'll be happy, as the WEF says. And it all stems from an emergency order, which, again, if you've been watching my show for at least a while, you know that I've been saying for quite some time, the United States signed on with 193 countries into the United Nations Pact for the Future back in September of 2024, which allows them under emergency orders to shut down your bank account, shut down your whatever you have money in based on what you've said on social media or your opposition to government figures, and also utilize carbon credits, food rations, social credits, etc. And this is something that they've been pushing for a while with 15-minute cities as well. I've reported on it on the ground in Oxford, UK, where they put up the facial recognition cameras and the sensors in the streets and fine people for idling, even though they force everyone to idle, because instead of driving 5 minutes, it takes 15 minutes now for the same drive because people are stuck in traffic, idling. It's all so insane. But all the same, the World Economic Forum had a page on their website called My Carbon, which you can still find from 2022, where they said that COVID was a litmus test to bring in technocracy in 15-minute cities. They already have carbon credits put on a lot of people's bank accounts, and it's just not mandatory yet. But neither was the so-called digital ID that they've mandated in the UK, which now they say it's mandatory, but it's voluntary in the sense that you don't need it, but if you don't have it, you won't have a bank account and you won't be able to drive and you won't be able to participate in everyday life. And they're doing the same thing in Mexico right now as they're trying to release their biometric CERP for next month. So again, this is happening across the board. The Genius Act, Real ID in the United States, both of those. Canada is unrolling this and bringing in digital IDs in provinces like Alberta, which is supposed to be conservative. Funny how that works. And they utilize things like the grid to get here. Because, of course, same with the cyber warfare. They say, oh, Iran's attacking our internet, or Amazon's down again, or Twitter's down, or, Facebook's down. And they say, oh, it's because of a hack. It's because of Iran. It's a test. It's a test, my friends. They'll blame whoever they need to benefit them. But overall, the general agenda is that, hey, it goes down. We will replace it with a more secure system, which surveils your every move and destroys any remaining privacy online, which is another major step towards not just censorship of speech, but censorship of free will, of what you eat, where you store your money, etc. And it's a complete destruction of privacy. So this is a very concerning thing, and they will utilize any crisis they can get to get there. And they have been doing this for a long time. We've seen what they've been doing in North Carolina. We know what they've been doing with HARP and with weather modification. We know with what we saw in Texas earlier this year, which was absolutely tragic. An entire Christians girls' school wiped out. Just absolutely horrible stuff like that. But of course, yes, they're using weather modification. Yes, they happen to have programs in all these places where these tragedies keep happening. And again, then they come in with the more secure digital system. As we see them push this idea that in Canada, we're set to see the most extreme cold on Earth. They say this most years, and they call this, is it global warming or climate change or whatever spin they want to put on it? If the weather changes, it's man-made according to them, despite that all being thoroughly debunked. But the Northeastern U.S. is expected to be blasted with frigid mid-December, right before Christmas, according to a forecast predicted by Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT climatologist Judah Cohen. There's a name. That's a horribly written sentence, by the way. Blasted with a frigid mid-December, right before Christmas, according to. Okay. Anyway, I don't like those run-on sentences. According to a social media post by Cohen, wrote in December, a sub-seasonal AI model created by a team of researchers from multiple universities predicted that the most expansive region of most likely extreme cold on Earth stretches from the Canadian plains to the U.S. East Coast. In the third week of December, the use of extreme cold, most extreme cold on Earth has garnered the climatologists more than a few eyeballs, making everyone wonder how true the statement is. Cohen told CTVnews.ca Friday that when climatologists use the word extreme, it is in reference to conditions that are unusual for that region. Now, growing up with minus 45, minus 50 in Winnipeg, Canada, I don't know about how unusual that is, but they will play that every year, just like it's always the hottest summer on record when it almost never is. But anyway, when I see these stories, I've heard them my whole life, but they utilize this to promote the idea that, okay, get ready, a big emergency is coming, and we could possibly save you after the fact, not before, of course. And first, you need to witness it yourself. So we'll allow these big things to happen that we say that we're able to stop from happening. They have weather modification that could easily stop the massive cold flares. They want people to be in a situation where power goes down. They don't have fuel, like what we saw in New York a couple years ago now, where people died on the side of highways, freezing to death. And of course, this should make more people go, hey, I need to prepare myself. Maybe I should get storable food. Maybe I should, I don't know, like stock up on batteries and these different kinds of things for survival reasons. But instead, what happens? Well, because the state depends on the dependence of the masses. They want people more dependent. They push people into a point where they're dying because they don't know how to do anything. And they say, hey, here's convenience to save you. Tyranny comes under the guise of convenience, and then we submit ourselves to new control mechanisms. And by the way, like they've had these things for emergency orders for years. I reported on this back in 2021, the Emergency Planning Act, which is in it was signed in on and signed onto in Saskatchewan, Canada, sections 18 and 18.1, which goes into how they could stop you from having a home. They could kick you out of your home. They could kill you. They could kill your pets. They can eat your animals. They could use your home as a post for the military. They could destroy your vehicles. They could kidnap you. They could imprison you. They could force feed you. They could take your livestock. They could do all these horrible things. Provide medical welfare, emergency medical welfare. That could include injecting you, by the way. All these things under an emergency order. And that includes, of course, food rations and grid rations. And that's exactly what they are leading up to here. It's one piece of a much bigger puzzle towards technocracy, which I've been warning about for so long. Edmonton becomes first in Canada to test facial recognition body cameras and police pilot program. They're putting up cameras all over highways in the United States right now and Canada as well, in big cities under the guise of stopping suspicious activity and seeking out suspicious activity. Meanwhile, as SHTF plan reports, Cap and Invest, a U.S. program to ration energy and then tax the fashions, talks about the fact that like several U.S. states have implemented or are developing Cap and Invest programs, including California, Washington State, and New York State. Climate change catastrophists will say that these programs are to save the planet from global warming. But as with all things related to the climate change agenda, it has nothing to do with climate change and everything to do with money and control. Carbon taxes and Cap and Invest systems have much in common. Both are market-based policies to make carbon emitters pay for their emissions. Using climate change jargon, Cap and Invest is a tool designed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by setting a declining cap on total emissions from covered sources, such as large industrial facilities, fuel distributors, and utilities. Each covered entity must hold an allowance for every ton of emissions it produces, with the total number of allowances equal to the annual emissions cap, which decreases over time to achieve long-term climate goals. This system creates a financial incentive for building to reduce emissions, as they can either cut their own pollution or purchase allowances from other with others, with the price of allowances determined by supply and demand. Again, this is whatever jargon they will use in order to bring in the technocratic control system, and they will utilize this as a financial system and, of course, a food-based system. It's all about rationing and controlling every aspect of your life, my friends. And we know with COP30 just ending, they are demanding $1.3 trillion a year, $3.2 trillion by 2035. In this push for Agenda 2030 and the control of everything via the climate agenda. Though, again, they're also utilizing the migration agenda in order to bring in biometrics and do all this stuff as well. So it's not just the left and the right are both pushing this. I mean, considering what we've seen with the carbon taxes and carbon allowances and carbon credits and everything, Elon Musk is totally on board with that, and he's on the right, and he's been lobbying the government to push this as well. And the government has also been considering utilizing climate policies. And it's not just for that. I mean, Elon Musk says AI will destroy the world, but he's the number one person developing it. He wants to put also chips in your brain attached to a Pentagon-funded mesh network, is running X money for in his rollout of X as a bank, which utilizes the algorithm as social credit. He's also said AI will take over all jobs. And he says not to worry, though, you could have universal basic income, which brings me back to Yuval Noah Harari, who's one of the top people at the World Economic Forum, saying himself, he dreams of a world where people are placated on drugs playing video games. This is exactly what UBI, universal basic income, will become. And of course, Elon Musk also says he wants carbon taxes and carbon credits on people's banks. He said that just recently in the last year. So this isn't like something that, from years ago, he's changed his mind. No, he said that recently. And again, this all plays into that technocratic agenda with Trump signing on to AI development with, not just Elon Musk, but Larry Ellison, Sam Altman, of course, people like Larry Fink of BlackRock, meeting with all these people, Alex Karp and Peter Thiel of Palantir, who is utilizing AI to indiscriminately bomb children in Gaza. Again, robots running the sky. How is that libertarian? How is that freedom oriented? But all of that does indeed lead to the same agenda. Biometrics on migrants that have been brought into the country by CIA infiltration in Latin America and creation of problems in Latin America, just like we've seen in the Middle East with our armed and funded CIA operatives called Al Qaeda, ISIS, Taliban, Mujahideen, Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas, whatever it might be. And Israel's involvement in that as well. So again, this is all part of the same agenda. And Elon Musk is getting this technocratic viewpoint from his grandfather, Joshua Haldeman, who started the Technate Party in Canada, which he dreamed of creating a world government based in technocracy. Elon Musk says he's just finishing the job of his grandfather. This technocratic agenda goes way back and has been utilized in China for a long time, as China was used as a guinea pig state. I have a book behind me here called Trilaterals Over Washington by Anthony C. Sutton and our friend Patrick Wood, which goes into a lot of this. And again, many years ago, we could go back to even 1948, the U.S.'s involvement in helping prop up China's communist dictatorship. And then, of course, after millions have died, Kissinger meeting with Mao to create an alliance with China to prop them up as a superpower and for a monopoly on trade, by the way. And then the Trilateral Commission being created in order to utilize China as a guinea pig state for technocracy, which now we see. And when I go on, these videos here from China showing these facial recognitions to leave neighborhoods, to go into stores, we already have that at Amazon facilities in the United States. We already have Whole Foods bringing in the palm scans. We already have a bunch of these places. In order to enter a store, to stop theft, you have to already tap your credit card and pay to get in. And again, this is all about tracing. And this is in China. But of course, we saw the same thing with the COVID stuff, pre-COVID. And then they tested this out as a litmus test in the United States with COVID. Same with in Europe and same with in Canada. And again, it's all about a slow roll. They don't do it overnight. And then eventually they warm us up to it. And then there's a big crisis. And then they come in as a solution and say, hey, look, we have a solution. In China, all citizens are required to have biometric digital IDs linked to the country's vast AI-powered surveillance grid, which includes hundreds of millions of facial recognition cameras. Even the most trivial aspects of daily life, including boarding a train or using a vending machine, require biometric identity verification. Now, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation also tested this out in Sierra Leone with their rollout of digital IDs, where you cannot actually have a car or have a job or have a bank account or do anything without a digital ID. In Kenya, the Ojek tribe has been heavily attacked and starved out in a lot of ways because they have bad carbon credit scores. In Vietnam, they shut down over 80 million bank accounts for people not bowing to the new biometric digital ID grid. This is coming to a place near you soon, my friends, and they utilize this grid situation. They utilize, the cyber attacks to then say, hey, we need more surveillance on the internet. They utilize the grid failure to say, hey, we'll come in with a new system that's much better, but it'll depend on you guys having digital IDs and being connected to it. And also, there's food shortages, a 75-year shortage in cattle head, which, by the way, is insane considering the fact that in 1952, I think it was, 1953, the population of Earth was less than 1 billion people. And now they say it's 8 to maybe 10. They don't really know exactly the population, but we know it's a lot more. So a 72, 73-year shortage in cattle head says a lot about where we're at now. And that's all manufactured. They destroy the supply chain. They go after farmers. They destroy farms. They pay off farmers to give up their land. Bill Gates buys up more farmland than any other person in the United States, doesn't use it. That's by design. Destroy all that land, not use it, cause starvation. Then, of course, Jeff Bezos is building all these massive facilities that are very mysterious in all these U.S. states on farmland. It's where they'll bring in that GMO crop. And Bill Gates has been announcing recently that he's training Africans, actually, I should have brought this up in this video. And you know what? I do have something on X about this. So I'm going to actually quickly show this to you guys because I should have mentioned it in this video and I totally forgot. But it totally correlates. And it's regarding a new plan that Bill Gates has. We can always count on him to come up with insane new plans, including burying 73 million acres of trees to stop climate change, according to him. Absolutely insane. Now, let me bring this up on the screen here. Okay. So Gates says African farmers will have an AI advisors along with better seeds and animal genetics to become a significant net food exporter. Using AI and their phones, they will be able to talk to the doctor, the tutor, the farm advisor, and pay nothing for it. As I wrote on X today at World Alt Media, I said, this is the WEF agenda being tested on Africans. As I've said so often, tyranny comes under the guise of convenience. This is insane. And exactly what I'm talking about with this also utilization of farmland. And of course, not just making smart farms, but also genetically changing the farms, spraying things with Roundup. Monsanto just got caught covering things up and ghostwriting articles from major publishers. And a lot of it was retracted 10 years later. As of today, it's not going to stop the fact that this is going to continue to happen, not to mention the spraying of the skies and everything else. And the fluoride in the tap water, it goes on and on. But they are utilizing this to also force rations on us that are going to be incredibly unhealthy. And there's the Moderna is spraying crops with mRNA and, of course, pushing for mRNA meat. I mean, this is a real thing that is happening right now. And what is going to happen at the end of the day when they collapse a grid, they collapse a supply chain, they collapse the cyber networks in order to bring in the new Starlink mandates? You have to use Starlink and your name has to be attached to your IP and everything. And there's no way to get around surveillance on it. It's so clear what's going to happen. Oh, there's a war. They severed the underwater cables. What are the chances of that? Or, oh, they're surveilling us like from China and stuff. So therefore we need to come in with our own surveillance to protect you from surveillance. It's going to be something insane like that. And so for food rations, for grid rations, and for also internet rations and control, they will utilize this. And if you snitch on your neighbor, maybe you'll get a steak someday with and you'll get some extra credits. I mean, all this sounds so crazy, but how can anyone deny it when we personally, all of us see it happening day by day out there? And the so-called smart revolution taking over absolutely everything. And we're supposed to believe that this is all going to go away. And, oh, well, maybe the Eastern Bloc will save it. That's part of the agenda. Shift from the West to the East, power shift from the West to the East to the new technocratic system. That's why China was propped up. Russia and Saudi Arabia and the new order will be in the East. And Putin just met today with Modi in India to work on a massive AI rollout agenda. And Trump just met with the Saudis to put a huge amount of money into AI militarism and AI nuclear control technology and all this kind of stuff. This isn't a coincidence, and it's not a coincidence that all these things are happening simultaneously. And it's not a coincidence that they're going into winter and saying, oh, the grid could be in serious danger because of winter. And as we go into summer next year, they'll say the grid could be in serious danger because of summer. Again, I'm not saying they're going to do this winter or overnight. What I'm saying is they very well can. And of course, it's all part of the same agenda that brings us to this point where we are dependent on them. And being dependent on them means we've given up our very humanity, the thing that makes humanity great: independence, individualism. They want to suction all that out from us. They want to essentially force us into serfdom and make us be controlled by this convenient apparatus, the technocracy they're building in the New World Order, where we all depend on this. But, oh, don't worry, it's so great. We get free things. We don't have to work. We get everything for free. We are on a credit system, but we get free food and we don't have to worry about poverty anymore. And everything's so great and jolly. Just give up your very humanity, bow to us, and never consider being independent again. You are part of all of us, the greater good of the greater number in the collectivist mantra of things. We have to reject it. And, I've been shouting from mountaintops for years on ways to reject it. It depends on individuals out there if they want to listen. But, again, it's pretty obvious if all your money's in the bank, it's one of the number one ways they can control you. I urge people to check our links one way or another. I make like nothing out of this. I just want people to be prepared. firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/. It has to be that exact link. There you could buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium, hold it in your hands, put it in a vault, or put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system. Schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzalez and a complimentary investors package there. Let him know in the comments that you found him at World Alternative Media or WAM, W-A-M. Also, check out heavensharvest.com for long-term storable foods that are non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, and books on how to get started. Use code WAM, W-A-M, again, and you will save 5% and get free shipping on these orders. This is extremely important for people to get on so that you aren't dependent on their foods later. Hey, kitty, come over here. We got to give you your pill. We got to give you your rations. No need to do that when you yourself are independent and free of these restrictions, which they depend on you being dependent in order to restrict you. It's so important for you and your family to stock up on this stuff. And as I close this off, we can get together as a community and talk about this at Anarchapulco. Anarchapulco.com, link below. Anarchapulco, February 15th to 20th, 2026 in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, where I live. I hope to see you there. I'll be speaking there. Use code WAM, W-A-M, and get 10% off on your tickets. And of course, there's many great speakers there who also talk about these very important issues. So I urge people to go and check that out below and use that code. And hopefully I'll see you here. We're under attack by bad energies across the board, by bad frequencies. I urge people to check out WaveWatch 2.2, pre-order today. Great for Christmas. 1,250 frequencies on this. And if you use code WAM, W-A-M, you'll save over $100 on it. So go and check it out in the links below. It's endorsed by people like Dr. Brian Ardis. It's, again, great for energy. It's great for fighting, immune issues. It's great for being able to sleep at night. It's great for helping you with stress and, of course, pushing back against EMF exposures, etc. I urge people to go and check that out below. Anyway, we have a lot of options there. We have vni.life/WAM, W-A-M, for super supplements, including Protovite, where you can save 15% when you use code WAM15, etc., etc., etc. The point is, my friends, please just get prepared. That's what's so important to me, is getting all of you guys out there to get ready for what comes next. I appreciate help with our gogetfunding.com campaign. Thank you to those who've recently donated. Matt, Vincent, and Ronald, thank you for the donations. They mean a lot, and they keep us up and running. We have Patreon and Subscribestar as well. If you pledge $4.99 a month or more, you'll get exclusive content, including subscriber-only content, and, of course, your own private video messages from us if you have any questions that you'd like answered. Of course, we have a PayPal, ancientwonderstelevision@gmail.com. And, of course, we have a Bitcoin address here on the screen, which you can check out here and, of course, scan. And, of course, you could find it also in the links below. We have the address in text form if you're looking for that. We have a Cointree link with a bunch of different cryptocurrencies that you could donate in, if you please, including privacy coins. And, of course, you can find our Teespring store below as well, which has a bunch of merchandise on it, which helps support us as well. Find us on Telegram, band.video, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, and Brighteon at World Alternative Media. We're on Hive, Steemit, and Vigilante.tv at Josh Sigurdson. And on the bad guys, TikTok and Instagram, World Alternative Media, Twitter and Getter at World Alt Media, and all the major podcast platforms except for Spotify, where, of course, we are banned. Hit that like button, share on social media, hit the notification bell, and hit subscribe if you have not yet already. And as always, my friends, live freely, live by example. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.